Okay, if you are joining us, you are welcome to the ReproHealth Unfiltered Xspace on the theme pleasure and art or science. I want to still give a few minutes to up our numbers. Good thing I have two of my speakers ready and up to elevate this conversation. And so I want to still give ourselves up to 6:10, then we can set the ball rolling. In the meantime, enjoy these cool instrumentals from me. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Once again, I think for the respect of everyone's time, I'll just go ahead and kickstart this session whilst I still follow up with my guest speaker, Dr. Woba, as we sort out this technological mishap. You are once again welcome to ReproHealth Unfiltered Xspace, and I'm your host, Nadwe Rajwa Adiku. I promise that this session is going to be a lot of interaction, lots of questions. So feel free to bombard our speakers, and the audience are also allowed to share with, in terms of our theme for today, that is to talk about pleasure in this sense, or sexual pleasure, whether it's an art, a science, the myth, misconception, and everything that comes in between. And so most of you have seen our materials. They had a brief profile of our speakers, but I want you to hear directly from them. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves to the house. Then just a bit of house rules. And if you are listening and you're required to speak or share, you can just request to be a speaker. I'll give you the opportunity to share your thoughts, answer, respond to questions from the speakers and whatnot. And intermittently, I'll just throw in some interlude to carry on the conversation. So I'm pleased to have on the call Dr. Roger Lutrot and Ms. Ruth Forson, Asantua Forson. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Lutrot to introduce himself, then I'll pass it over to Ms. Ruth Forson. Over to you, Dr. Lutrot.
Okay, thank you, Naidu, very much.
Doc, please, if you can speak up, I think your voice is a bit
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can, but I still faint.
Okay, is it better?
Yes.
Great. So thank you very much, Naidu, and the entire Reproductive, ReproHealth Unfiltered team for having me. My name is Roger Max Koludret. Like you said, I'm a medical doctor at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. I'm also a sexual and reproductive health advocate. I'm a past fellow of the United Nations Population Fund Youth Leaders Program, and I'm a public speaker as well. So I basically work at the intersection of science, culture, and pleasure. So far as this conversation is concerned. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's just a bit about me.
Right. Thank you so much, and also thank you for honoring our invitation to be here this evening. Ms. Forson, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Now, am I clear enough?
Yeah,
am I
very,
audible
very
enough?
Clear. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, as mentioned, my name is Ruth Asantewa Forson, but I prefer to be called Asantewa. I am a physician assistant specialized in public health with a particular interest in health system strengthening, sexual reproductive health advocacy. I currently work with Academic City University, and it's been a pleasure to be on this platform to share my knowledge, to learn, and to interact with everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So, Doc, my people are saying that they still can't hear you. I'm getting sad emoji. So maybe when you're speaking, you can be a
Please,
bit
is it better
louder.
now? Is it better?
Here nor there, but
Oh,
I'm
is it better
suspecting
now?
yeah.
Is it better now?
Yes, this is
Okay,
okay.
great. So
Oh, yeah, if
it's
you
still
could,
low.
no, I think this is great.
Okay, awesome. So I was thanking you, Nedu, and the entire ReproHealth Unfiltered team for having me. I also mentioned that my name is Roger Max Scott-Ludret, as you can see in the profile. And I'm a medical doctor at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. I'm also a reproductive health advocate. I am as well a past fellow of the United Nations Population Fund Youth Leaders Program, and I am a public speaker as well. Basically, my experience and my job makes me work at the intersection of science, culture, and pleasure. So far as this conversation is concerned, anyway. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. I hope this time I was heard.
Yeah, I think it was better. And so, missing currently is Dr. Francis Wilbur, but he's very instrumental to this call. And so, please tell the people holding his X account to release it for me. I think he's just having a big challenges, but trust me, I'm speaking to him behind the scenes. So once we're able to sort it out, he'll definitely be on the call with us. So, just to move right into the conversation, I just want to start with just from the basics, like what when we say sexual pleasure, what is the generic understanding about it? Over to you, Doc.
Okay, so the generic understanding. I feel like pleasure is one of those words that it elicits a variety of interactions from people. Some people smile, some people squirm, and some people get very nerdy. Sometimes some people even do all three or any two. Usually when we hear pleasure, we think about a variety of things, especially being influenced by whatever culture we come from, whatever religion we are part of, what maybe sounds, vocalizations, the usual symbolic stuff like gripping sheets and all of those things. We just like to think about symbols in terms of what we are used to, what we've experienced. And I don't think there's a one generic thing people think about. I think it's shaped a lot by the experiences, their culture, and what they regard as their identity. Yeah.
Interesting. Asantla, would you want to also top up?
As Doc has mentioned, when we talk about sexual pleasure, it could also be relative individually, but basically, I also see it from the aspect of it could be a physical and emotional satisfaction that we derive from a sexual activity. It could be any type of sexual activity. It could be in a solitary state or a shared experience. So you could be doing it with someone, you could be doing it with yourself. But the main goal of pleasure when it comes to sex, or when we say pleasure, it's a satisfaction you get. Yeah.
All right. So more of like,
Hi now.
yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm just assimilating what has been shared so far. And so with that basic understanding, I want to, this conversation, because we are exploring the arts bit of it and the science behind it. And so I will give this question to Doc because for the first part, we want to understand the science of sexual pleasure. And so based on your work or understanding of the human body and all that, how would you say our brain processes sexual pleasure? I mean, how does it even come about?
Okay. So, without getting too technical, right? Your brain has, of course, everything starts from your sensory input, your senses, touches, your sense of touch, your sense of sight, maybe sometimes a sense of smell, a sense of taste as well, all of that. But basically, sensory inputs now get your brain dopamine to be released, and then that's so. Also,
I think we are really struggling to mention you. Your line keeps breaking.
oh, really?
Yes,
It's better
yes.
now?
Yes. So if you could speak for us.
Okay, great. So I was saying that we need to start from what we call sensory inputs, right? We all learned about the five senses in basic school. Your sense of sight, your sense of touch, all of that come into play here, because when those senses are activated, right, then it also it causes your brain to release a hormone that's called dopamine. And that hormone is a similar hormone that we even get when we eat food and we really like the taste and all of that. It's more like a reward hormone sort of thing. It makes you feel good. It makes your brain feel good. So when that happens, then it goes down to your a part of your brain called the. I'm trying not to be too technical, but the feeling good department is there, and then after that, it comes down to, let's call it maybe your thinking department of sorts, like your limbic system. It's not really high class thoughts. It's more like your strong, impulsive, biological thinking department. So when it comes there, then your brain releases another hormone called oxytocin or vasopressin, which links the bonding you're having in that moment, assuming it's with another person, and then the touch or the sensory inputs that we talked about. So it's kind of important to note that arousal or the build-up of pleasure is both a top-down thing and a bottom-up thing. Top-down in the sense that your thoughts and the context of whatever it is that's happening matters, and then bottom-up in the sense of touch and stimulation from neither regions upwards, because that's how come it's top-down and then bottom-up, right? But then sorry, do you just want to know how the brain processes sexual pleasure, or we are talking about everything biology regards sexual pleasure?
Yeah, everything biologic about sexual pleasure, mostly if you could emphasize how our brain processes it. I think the rationale for this question is what even counts as pleasure? What, for lack of better words, symptoms do the body portray? Maybe you can make it specific for males and females to count that you are experiencing pleasure. I think that helps.
Oh, Okay. So, well, I think I've already gone through how the brain does experience sexual pleasure. But before you get to the usual, in quote, symptoms or signs that we see that make us realize that, we are getting some form of pleasure, like certain people, maybe their nipples harden, certain secretions for women from their vagina, for men, certain erections, etc. All of that, of course,
I think we are losing Dr. Roger. Okay.
that we see. So in actual sense, your brain picks it up way before you see the physical stuff. So it's just a very short pathway from the sensory inputs that we've talked about all the way to the release of the hormones that link bonding and touch. Yeah.
All right. So let me also hear from Santua's perspective, then we'll move on.
Okay, so as Dr. Lutrot has mentioned, let's look at it also from this aspect. So everything begins from the brain. The brain picks up the information. First, as Dr. Lutrot mentioned, we have our various senses, the hearing, the touch, the smell, and all that. So, for example, a man sees a woman, sees some body parts, and is excited. Now, something needs to look at where the brain is in your skull and look at where either your nipple, your breast, your vagina, your penis is. Sorry, Nadu, I'm allowed to say penis and vagina,
Yes,
right?
this is a reproductive.
Yes. So let's look at it that way. Looking at where the brain is, where the penis, the vagina, the breast are, there needs to be a communication, but someone needs to send that message to the vagina. So once the brain perceives the sensory message, then it sends the message through a messenger. So we call something the neurotransmitters. These are the oxytocin, the dopamine Dr. Lutrot mentioned. So they make sure that your nerve cells are like the channel that is going to connect the brain to your genitals. So the neurotransmitter, these chemicals Doc mentioned, will make sure that the nerve is actually sending the right message. So when the brain of a male sees a woman's nicely shaped buttocks, then the nerves send the signal. The chemicals, let's say oxytocin, dopamine, sends the signal to, let's say, the penis of the man, and it says erect. You're excited. Erect. If it's the woman, it says get wet. So another example is when you smell a very nice food and you start to salivate. It's the same thing that is happening there. With women, we start to get wet. Your nipple starts becoming sensitive. If you're a man, your penis is becoming erect. You are just having those feelings. Yes, these are the nerves, and that is how the brain is transmitting the message to your genitals. That is how the communication flows, and then sexual pleasure begins to set in.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So I want to move to the next part of we uncovering the science bit about pleasure. That what are some biological factors, and that has to do with everything that you have said, the neurotransmitters, everything, and also the physiological factors that may enhance or inhibit pleasure. I don't know if you get my question right. Because from what you are saying, a lot of things have to take place for happy, but we can all know the fact that not everybody technically experience all the things you have shared. So what are some biological and also some physiological things that may either enhance pleasure or inhibit pleasure? I think, Santua, you can take this one, then I'll move to get insights from Dr. Lutrot.
Okay, thank you again, Nedu. I was told my voice is still low. Is it still low or is it better?
Okay, I think now it's better, but it kind of meanders. You go high, then you go low. So if you
Oh my word. Okay, sure. I'm going to do my best. Apologies. I think I have a sore throat or something of the sort. So there are some biological, psychological factors that enhance or inhibit the processes involved in ultimately culminating in pleasure. Yes. So there are certain things that help, and there are certain things that do not help. So the pros, right? Good sleep is very important because you see your body has a clock called the circadian rhythm. So it knows that at 8 o'clock, I'm supposed to release this kind of hormone because this guy will get hungry at maybe 12 or this. Yeah, your body knows that, like if your circadian clock is off, or if your timing, your body's clock is off, then of course things are not going to be released as and when they should be released. You'd also be a very tired person, which will influence even your mental state, which we have come to realize is very important because the brain plays a very big role in pleasure. Low stress as well. If you are not a very stressed person, it does help you actually, embrace it helps your brain embrace the whole concept of pleasure more. And of course, clear, how best to word this? Let's say something like clarity when it comes to consent or expectations, right? When whatever parties are involved in whatever pleasurable act decide that this is exactly what we're doing. I give you permission to do A, B, C, D, E, all of that. It builds some sort of expectation. It helps everybody be more transparent in the process, and everybody can have a good time, right? So that actually enhances pleasure, because then your brain is not thinking, hey, we haven't said what we are doing, so what if we are suddenly sleeping and then his hand slips into maybe like my gluteal cleft, like my butt crack or something. You see, people are uncomfortable when clear, let's call them they have this term in the corporate world, standard operating procedures. Yes. Or terms of reference for the acts. Yeah. So there's that. Of course, there's also the issue of your hormonal levels, because we all have hormones which drive our ability, our desire to have sex, etc. So if you have issues with your hormones, obviously it can impact it negatively. But if your hormones are good too, like they're on the right levels, right margins, then you are going to have a very, 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 very awesome time. Your testosterone, especially for men, and then your estrogen for women. When it comes to your physical health as well, of course. I mean, I do hear sick people still can experience pleasure, but imagine you sweating from having a severe malaria and being involved in, let's say, I don't think you'd enjoy any sexual act so much if you are like seriously sweating from malaria, for instance, or having chills. Well, maybe it might add to pleasure in some way. I don't know, but you get the point. Yeah. Generally, if you are not physically healthy, then there are issues. And then, of course, the safe environments as well. People tend to be more comfortable in spaces that they know, which is why even when we go somewhere, there could be someone, for instance, that you have never spoken to. Maybe you went to the same university. You never spoke to the person for like 4 years. And then you get somewhere and you're working. And then you meet this person. And the person has such a familiar face So instantly you guys strike up a relationship. I think that's how safe environments work. If I'm comfortable in my room, obviously if I am having sexual intercourse with someone in my room, I would feel way more at ease. I would be more open to the concept of pleasure with the person, etc., etc. The inhibitors, of course, would be the opposite of these things like chronic stress, things like anxiety. You know, people can be really anxious. Hey, will it be nice? How will it be? Hey, what if it's too big? What if it's too small? What if I don't do this thing? What if I quickly finish in 15 seconds? All of those things are things that can detract from pleasure. Of course, pain as well is something that we should be considering. And then, of course, there are certain medications. And this is where I want to sound a bit of a warning. Sorry, Nidu, am I talking too much?
No, I'm only alive because he has written some gems, so
Okay, but I'm audible now,
yes,
right?
yes.
Awesome. So let's jump right back into it. This is where I want to sound a bit of an alarm. People have various things that they use lately. I hear people even take paracetamol to enhance their sexual pleasure. People take vasodilators. Vasodilators are drugs that let's say widen your vessels, because you see the whole process of erection is caused by the release of a chemical called nitric oxide, which causes your blood vessels to open. So even though penises get hard and it feels like there's a bone in it, it's actually just tissues and then vessels that are filled with blood. So people usually take these vasodilators. You've heard of some, definitely things like Viagra or sildenafil. There's this new one called what's the name? They call it Red Sun or something. This Taladifil, I think, is also a vasodilator. People use all kinds of things, dragon spray, which is lidocaine, and an anesthetic agent, which won't really make you feel stuff. So I don't know why you would use that to last longer. Like, why would you sacrifice your pleasure for, anyway, everybody and their own thing. But yes, certain medications
can do that.
Do cause those things. And it's important to realize that these medications, overuse of them, they are prescribed for certain things, especially for people with erectile dysfunction. If you use them too much, for instance, they could have negative health impacts on you. So to all of you out there trying to, break the Guinness World Records for most rounds and most number of minutes and stuff, this should be a bit of a caution. Word of caution to you. Again, fatigue. Obviously, if you're tired, you cannot perform in anything, including sexual activity.
Okay, all right, Doc. So let me put you here. So I'm sure maybe Asantua may want to add, but just to reiterate, I see some people who are just joining us, but I have seen that my former executive director is on the call. So let me just give her a special shout out. Madam Abna, thank you so much for always supporting me and being on this call with you. I think when we open the floor for our listeners today, I definitely would want to hear from her, because I know personally this topic is of much interest to her when it comes to good education around it. So we'll be glad to really hear from her. So just to reiterate on what Doc has said in terms of the enhancers and the inhibitors, that good sleep, right? And I think I want my speakers to make it more practical for people to assimilate, especially for married folks. Sometimes you work 8 hours or even late nights, then your wife or your partner would want some action and you are not in the mood. So these account for it. And hormonal levels, right? So some people physically may be strong, but because we need these hormones to be able to make our body processes communicate all these pleasure processes that has been enlightened, some of them are low and may account for that. So maybe you are not even somebody, whether married or in a committed relationship, you are not really into it, largely because maybe you have hormonal imbalance, right? And I like the big Doc mention about the communication, the safe environment, very key. Even that boils down, we'll talk about that in the other segment when it comes to the culture and things and physical health. And let me just stress on the medication bit. So, Doc mentioning those medication was for our education, and I've actually witnessed a penile fracture, right? And I think that's the medical term. If I'm wrong, my able guest will correct me. Where there's a young guy.
Oh, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
so this was a real case I encountered internship days, somewhere 2016. The guy had taken Viagra and had prolonged erection, couldn't bring it down. So he caused physical trauma by forcing the penis to go down, and it kind of fractured. In fact, lucky for him, the doctors were like he came in time. Other than that, that would be his end. And the other downside, they couldn't even pay for the medical bill. They were social welfare crying, and the mother was like, "Oh, thank you, my child couldn't have named me." And so these are other downside. These are medication used to treat serious disease like serious conditions like erectile dysfunction. It shouldn't be abused. So thank you so much, Doc. I've learned some new things as well. And so briefly, as Antoine, maybe just touch on the inhibitors and the enhancers, then I'll throw the next question to you. So just your few thoughts. Yeah, Asanta, if you can hear me, you may speak. I think your microphone is on, but I can't hear you. Okay. So I just want to hear from some of our listeners. If you joined us, we are still talking about the science bit of pleasure, right? And so if you have an understanding or something to contribute to the science behind that, is our biological and physiological processes, but we would want to hear from you. You can just request to be a speaker, then I'll give you the opportunity. I think I can allow for one or two, then we'll steer the conversation forward. So any listener want to take this short? I've seen we have some doctors in our midst. The science behind pleasure would want to hear from you as well. Just request to be a speaker and I would give you that opportunity. Asantua, can you hear me now? Okay. So let me just move, Doc. It looks like it's left with the two. First, whilst we wait, last one before we move to the next part of this conversation is, what does science miss when it doesn't include pleasure in health conversations, right? And so, okay, Santua, you can hear me. Okay, so I wanted you to speak on the inhibitors and the enhancement, but I couldn't hear you speak. If you can hear me now, you can come in. Oh, she says she can hear me, but am I the only one who can hear her? Okay, so I think she's off to join again. So, Doc, let me just come back to you. What do you think science missing when we don't include pleasure in health conversation? Like, I don't feel that it's widely spoken about, and maybe as we talk on it, you can talk about the benefits in terms of the overall health-being of individuals. Over to you.
Okay. So, sorry, I've been moving around myself. I'm still at work. But I think what science is missing, even before we get to that, we should realize how people don't really prioritize pleasure or think of it like a big thing. Let me explain. For instance, when this flyer came out for this event, sorry, am I audible? I'm low.
Yeah, no, it's better now. We can
Okay,
hear you.
great stuff. So when this flyer came out and I posted it on my socials, my Snapchat, my WhatsApp, etc., the reactions tell me all I need to know about our state of mind when it comes to sexual pleasure. Different comments. There are people that will suddenly strike up a conversation with you, intimating to you the problems that they are having, but will never ever openly show their face as an advocate for, let's say, SRHR. We unfortunately live in a society where we are not very open about these kind of things, and people really, in quotes, suffer on the low, because there's some taboo aspects of it. Parents don't talk to their kids about it or the importance of pleasure, but they automatically want them to suddenly bring significant others home when they are 18, or when they are 18, they speak to them in proverbs about how now they can impregnate someone or get impregnated, that kind of thing. It's the conversation about sex itself is a bit of a taboo in most of our homes and spaces in this country. So how much more sexual pleasure? But now let's come down to what you actually did ask about the science, and what it misses. So when science talks about sexual pleasure, I mean, these days, more research is being done into that holistically, but when most of the time, holistic well-being is neglected. In terms of, there's an emotional aspect to sexual pleasure, there's a relational aspect to it, and there's a creative aspect to it. So the topic of discussion today, the answer for me is actually that it's both. It's both a science and an art. It's a science because, of course, we know that there are biological pathways or neurological pathways that make pleasure come about and culminate in wetness or hardness or creaming or all of that, whatever it is that you are. But aside the science, there's an art to it, and people are not a monolith, right? They are different. There are all kinds of different arts to it, which is why I talked about the emotional, relational, and creative dimensions of sexual pleasure. And that's something that's often neglected in science, especially in our part of the world. Again, we underestimate the impact of it in our society. People are literally mean to their subordinates or their workers, their co-workers at work, because they are not being sexually fulfilled at home, or they are not getting enough sexual pleasure at home. It's a thing that actually does happen, and it translates into other things, especially for people who are, for instance, married, and conventionally cannot really get pleasure elsewhere. It's also worse if, let's say, you are sort of like a conservative person, and so you are not very liberal with regards to the use of other methods except for what you are conventional. That's something that science on the mental health of people and how that translates onto their impact.
Okay, I think I've lost Doc for second. Maybe Asantua, now you can come in.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, very audible.
So sorry about that break. And just as Doc was mentioning,
It helped.
so okay, he's back.
So
Okay. Doc, we lost you for a moment.
oh my word, where did you lose me at? What was the last thing you heard, please?
Doc, you were talking about married people who do not have the chance to go out, and
I'm
yeah.
saying that since this is a very open conversation, we might as well be as open as we can. I was talking about how, for instance, this is an analogy. Someone is a conservative person, whether man or woman, and is in a conservative marriage. Let's say they are Christian, they're married, and so of course they are and primary source of sexual pleasure is their partner, husband, wife, whatever. They are conservative to a point where, for instance, they don't. They all they know is what they're able to discover for themselves in their own experiments. They haven't had these kind of conversations. They feel shy because if I have this kind of conversation, hey, what will my coworker think about me? They'll think I'm so bad. Or what will my church elders think of me? Or that kind of thing. Everybody is trying to be sort of, in quotes, a morally upright thing. Even though talking about this does not necessarily mean you're morally inept. But in instances like that, what happens is people can get very sexually frustrated because they're not getting enough pleasure or the pleasure that they want. And then that translates into other things, the different societies or communities or workspaces or spaces they find themselves in, even impacts their productivity. And, there are so many great benefits to actually having sexual pleasure. And so people miss out on that. And so if we focus only on the scientific part of it or the biological part of it, then we forget about the holistic well-being of both the individual and the society. So yeah, I think that's what I have to share.
Thank you so much. I think I can attest the conversation is really getting interesting. Let me just pick a few thoughts from Asantwa. Then I definitely want to hear from some of our listeners. Please, you didn't just come to tap, or you all came to share. So I also really want to hear from some of our listeners after Asantwa goes. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nadir. So, as we are discussing, when we talk about sexual pleasure, it's not just the science of it. I've realized we've limited everything to be, okay, we need to have sex. A man and a woman, we need to have sex. When we have the urge, we'll just have the sex and we go. But it's not just you having the feeling. How do you express it? People have very strange fantasies, very funny fantasies. They are unable to express it. The art of sexual pleasure comes in there. I've had a client telling me, a married client telling me his wife is not being sexually engaging. And I asked them, what positions do you do? Have you tried spoon? Have you tried doggy? And he's like, hey, which one too is that? So I was like, yes, you are always missionarying. You are always missionarying. So we are not speaking about it and educating ourselves on how to have sex, how to give pleasure to ourselves, to our partners. Some women, some men will not even want to touch themselves because of masturbation being deemed as wrong. But let me ask you, if you do not know your pleasure points, how do you expect someone to know it? You need to guide your partner to know your pleasure points. And it doesn't mean you were a bad person, as Doc was saying. You being able to express yourself, you being able to ask for what makes you happy, what makes you satisfied, and being able to give your partner what makes him or her satisfied is the whole goal. So sexual pleasure is not just the science of it. You need to know how to do it, and that is where the art aspect comes in.
Okay, so I think you've ushered us to the next phase, but I really, really would want any of our listeners to, top up on the conversation we've had so far. So anyone wants to?
Nedu, could I answer something that Ikea was
Yes,
asking?
yes.
If you don't touch yourself, there'll be a prophecy revealed to your partner through a dream. Or something. That's how your pleasure point. I think we need to demystify the conversation surrounding sex, especially in Africa.
Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to come to in the next segment, because I've seen that the conversation is already going there. So let me just put it in context. I'm sure my listeners are gathering momentum to come. So let's just move to the arts bit of it, right? And so, Doctor, just butchered. So if you could share like what tradition, gender, religion shape pleasure experiences or even shame pleasure, if you can touch on that aspect as we would.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is something I talk about a lot. Well, my close friends know this. People I have worked with, especially at UNFPA, I can see some of my colleagues like Michael Kofi Akon on the call. This is something I talk about a lot because we are largely shaped by religion in Africa and in Ghana especially. We are shaped by our societies. And then, of course, we are shaped by the kind of communities we are, even gender, right? There are social scripts that assign who deserves pleasure, when, and how. It's the same reason why men will say, Charlie, I kill him because the bed shook so much you could literally hear the frames moving, and you could hear the ka. But and because of that, it means because you put in so much physical effort, like what say baby, you are the king of the world. We should call Igwe for you. Even though that might not necessarily translate into the other person deserving pleasure. We live, unfortunately, in a society where there's not too much transparency, even in intimate relationships. And so you realize that it's more like, Obia me, I just came for my pleasure and going. The other person is not thinking about how the other person is going to be happy, especially in the case of men. Me, I just want to, have my sex and ejaculate and then go. And I don't think that's a very holistic way to look at things. Again, this is something that's very important, that especially is important scientifically because it's been proven. In addition to the bed shaking and all of that, another thing that people often use as a metric for given good sexual pleasure is vocalizations. People think when there's a lot of and ooh, it means you've given so much sexual pleasure. But there's literally literature, pun intended, literally literature, that shows that women especially, most women, this was a study conducted in Finland, I think. I'll look for the actual article, but I read this about 2 years ago. People make these noises.
No, I think we lost Doc, or it's from my end.
It's from your end. He's still there, but his voice is going down.
Oh my word! Oh my word!
I'm actually interested in what you are sharing because I think that's what people call fake orgasm. Like people actually think like making sounds, money here and there equates to okay.
Yeah.
So if you could speak up first.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Great. So I was saying that we are socially conditioned in a way. Our social conditioning speaks a lot to how much pleasure we think we deserve, what kind of pleasure we think we deserve, if any at all. Because conventionally, it becomes more about satisfying the man. You hear phrases traditionally like, ukunu die se woma ukunu enije. Or something. Sorry, I'm not very good with fancy. Basically saying that or that kind of thing. And so women even open their legs when they don't want to or when they don't feel like, simply because they need to keep their
So just to follow, if I'm hearing you right, Doc, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, so now I just want to hammer on something. So from what I'm deducing, like when it comes to societal expectation, that sense of giving pleasure or satisfaction is burdened on the woman just opposed to the male partner. Is that the case?
Yes, especially in our part of the world, it is. Especially in the part of the world, it is. There's a new crop of young people coming out who are bold, who are defying that narrative, but largely by far, that is what it is. It's burdensome for women. The burden is on women to give men pleasure with very little consideration for women.
Interesting.
Right? Whether not only even vaginally, orally as well, right? And I was talking about societal perceptions because of social conditioning, because we especially as men, growing up in Ghana, I was lucky anyway. My parents, I'm so happy to have my parents because they are very open about certain things. But largely, growing up in Ghana, you hear that you need to make the bed shake as a man. She needs to scream, Ajay, Ajay, ow, ow, ow. And that's what shows that, hey, wikun, you are the dugu, and you've spoiled everywhere, But we've come to realize, especially through science, there's literally research backing this, that even when it comes to vocalizations, and these are called copulatory vocalizations, the o, people mentioning God and all of that. Often, most women do it, one, to boost their partner's self, because this is the downside to the pleasure of the burden of pleasure being on women. Men get anxious about, hey, did I make her come? Hey, did I really satisfy her? Hey, am I really there? That kind of thing. And that is also what is creating I know I'm backtracking, but I will get back to the point I was making. That is also what fuels this whole black market for the drugs that people take. Because it means if I go 7 minutes, I'm not a real man. If I go 3 minutes, it means I'm not a real man. I need to be able to go like 30 minutes, and she has to sweat, and I have to be very hard, and I have to finish and be like, yes, I kill everywhere. That kind of thing. It's promoting a very harmful society where people are abusing drugs and all of that because of performance anxiety, even though they wouldn't admit it to themselves. But moving forward to what I was saying, apart from boosting your partner's self-esteem, another reason why most women actually make these copulatory vocalizations is to help their partners orgasm faster. And if you do actually go into the literature, you realize that not all women can even orgasm vaginally. The number is I've forgotten the percentage. I did have it in my head a while back, but it's lower. It's not 100%. And most women, the highest percentage is actually clitorally, right? Clitoral stimulation. So you realize that we have so much misconceptions, and unfortunately the burden is unfairly placed on women, and the cultural and religious biases as well do not help, because now sex ends up becoming a chore or a duty you have to perform, so much that you feel like your own considerations do not matter. And that creates a lot of sexual frustration, which we've talked about, can seep into many other things.
Yeah, so
for me, I think this is how all of these systems interconnect.
Yeah, so let me just share something that happened in regard to the moral thing. So I had one of my friends text me that the moment she posted the flyer, I think one of the church elders came to her DM saying, "What have you posted?" and things. So she had to take it down from her snap, and they were just texting. I'm like, okay, no, I get it. And I had one of my team members also had somebody responding to the flyer and said, I hope people are not coming to encourage premarital sex and things. So I'm just sharing that truly, they exist. I'm sure people, especially the first day we posted the flyer without even the speakers and all that, we did get some feedback, people already condemning or thinking viewing it from a moral standpoint. So I'm just saying to buttress what you were saying. But quickly, I want to also hear from Asantewa. What are some of the misconceptions when it comes to pleasure, and how does also tradition, based on your line of work, religion, even and shame pleasure, or even people able to talk about their pleasure experiences?
Yes. So just as you were saying, the example you gave, I remember one time I was having a sexual education session on TikTok, and then a friend reached out to me and said, "Oh, why don't you talk about hypertension, diabetes? As for sexual reproductive health, it's a taboo." And this is an elderly man. So I was like, okay, that is one misconception we have. It's a taboo, so we shouldn't talk about it. You are supposed to go in, as Doc said, you need to make your husband happy. You need to satisfy him. So you, as a woman, when you go in there, you are not expected to tell him how you want your breast to be fondled. Yours is to lie down, receive, make sure he has come, and then you both get up and go. But there are some men who will actually go a step further to ask you, have you come? Did you come? When I touch your breast this way, do you like it? How should I touch it? That is what we should be encouraging. We should be able to openly talk about sex. During even our church programs, church service, we should be able to schedule time to talk about these things, because they are silent cankers that are destroying the same family unit we want to build. And if care is not taken, it's going to get out of hand. People are not satisfied. We are skewed to having sex in our home, specifically in the bedroom, specifically on the bed. But what it does not hurt if you could have sex in your own home, in the privacy privacy of your home, maybe in your living room, maybe a different position. We should be able to talk about it. A woman should be able to say that, okay, what you are doing is hurting me. You are giving me a doggy position, but the way you're doing it, it's hurting me. I want to experience it this way. Can we try this? We should be open enough to talk about it. Unlike the traditional way, when it's just heightening the man's pleasure. It's a pleasure from both sides. The woman needs to be satisfied. The man needs to be satisfied. At some point, some men expect that women will always have an orgasm during sex, just like they do, but it doesn't always happen like that, especially if you look at our cycle. When we are close to our menses, when we are about having our menses, sometimes the libido goes down, okay, and at that point you may need extra effort to get her so aroused. Even if you look at the vaginal lubrication, it changes. So you may have to do the extra effort to get her to be aroused, to get her to have an orgasm. And if she doesn't have it, that's okay. She may not have it vaginally, as Doc said. You may have to stimulate the clitoris or the breast. I mean, you have to find other methods to make her satisfied, make her happy. Unlike the traditional way, we have to go and we do not have to talk about it at all. These flyers like this, I wanted to post them in my church page, but I was contemplating, what are people going to say? That I am going to teach the younger ones who are not married sexual pleasure. And you see, these are all the things that we are hiding, but deep down, you see, because of our line of work, we get to have intimate conversations with patients, with people. And deep down, people are craving these things, but it's a taboo. We do not talk about it. So they'll rather be quiet and suffer, or go out there secretly, have their fantasies explored. But I think if we are able to have open conversations like we are having now, both parties will be satisfied and we'll all be happy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think we have to begin wrapping up for the interest of time. At this point, I want to invite Madam Abna, because I know she has a lot. Whether she likes it or not, I put her on the spot to really share some insights with us. So, Laura, if you can hear me, you can request to be a speaker, then I would allow, so you can share some insight with us. Or let me be the one to share, invite you as a speaker. Okay. So I've invited you as a speaker. Once you accept, Okay, so while we begin to wrap up and away for Madam Abnat to join, any of our listeners maybe want to add a thing or two, or if you have a burning question you would want to ask Dr. Lutrot and Asantua, you can also request for speaker access and I'll grant you that. So, Jemima, I know you said you had a question for the speakers. You can request to be a speaker and okay. I have one request. Okay, Mandela. Yes. Alright, Mandela, you may ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, Mandela, we can hear you.
I didn't know I was permitted yet. Sorry for the ambience. I'm outside, so there will be a bit of noise, but I hope I'm very audible.
Yes.
Okay, so for me, I have a lot of questions, but I'll just limit it and ask a few. I've been on the call, but I don't know if I missed it. But then, does size matter since we have the expert on the call? And what is the ideal size? I mean, if I'm talking about size here, I'm talking about the size of the penis. What are the factors? Some things like get especially, does it matter? So generally, does size matter? That's my first question. So I don't know if I should give all my questions or
Yeah, I
I
think give all your questions, then I'll allow the speakers to respond.
Okay, so my first question, as I've already said, is does size matter? And secondly, Asantua raised a point on the doggy style, and then it put my mind to something. I learned somewhere, I read somewhere that doggy style is not convenient for people with a bigger size, like men with bigger size. It's convenient for them, but there is not, and the women do not really enjoy it because when you are in that position, the is it the depth of your vagina becomes shallow, so it doesn't really, like, it hurts, something like that. I want more clarity on that.
Okay, so I'll let either Asanto or Roger, you can take this, then I'll allow the next person to give their question, the one I've granted speak.
Okay. Asanta, would you like to take this, or I should?
Okay, let me start with the doggy thing and then you can come in, okay? Sure.
Okay.
So, with the doggy position not being good for men with bigger penises, I wouldn't say you should take it away from them completely. So you see, with the doggy position, it makes the woman have a deeper penetration. There are certain positions, penetration becomes deeper, and one of those positions are the doggy position. So if you have a bigger penis, that is not the time to go all in and bang because you want to show that you are the man. No, you should have it at the back of your mind that you could cause pain to the woman. So if you are that huge that if your full penis has to go in and cause pain, please do it in bits. You have to start in slower, shallow thrusts. Then you can increase it, seeking feedback from her, making sure she's enjoying it and not causing her pain. So you just don't stand behind her and hit it because you are hitting. No, you have to communicate with her. You start with shallow thrust and then you can increase it with the feedback she's giving you. And that is why, I don't know if today it still exists, but men with very huge penises, they used to put a ring on it. I don't know if that thing still works. So they do not have to penetrate everything into the woman. Okay. Yeah, so that's my bit on the doggy position. Dog, please, you can come in.
Okay, I absolutely love listening to Ikea, and she's made excellent points. Of course, size is not really the main determinant of sexual satisfaction, but just to add a bit to this whole doggy conversation, there are things you need to consider. Angle of penetration, arousal, and relaxation. Because when your pelvic muscles are relaxed and arousal is high, it's unlikely that you have discomfort, especially when you're really wet or creamed up or whatever it is that you are. But if the muscles are tense or there's insufficient lubrication, then of course you have some discomfort. And like she said, a thicker penis will obviously stretch your tissues more, which can feel good for some people, but can also cause some soreness, which is friction related afterwards. But things like changing your hip angle, controlling your thrust depth, like she said, or even using pillows for support to prop up properly, it's all physics when it comes to this. It can make the position more comfortable for the woman, even if you have a larger size. It's also very important to communicate, just like Asantua said. If you are having sex with someone, you obviously need to be communicating with the person. Look for cues. Is the person really liking it? How's their body reacting? That kind of thing. The first question, does size matter? Sorry, am I still audible? My voice is low.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so the first question, does size matter? Am I supposed to answer this from a personal point of view or from a medical point of view?
Both of the couple of the two of them all.
Okay, I'm going to combine both of them. Penis size is not really a main thing. You see, even from a clinical standpoint, function matters more than size. You can have a Panzer or a bazooka and not know what to do with it, and someone can have a small pistol and wow you. You see, because different factors accounts for it. Your ability to maintain an erection, comfortable penetration, mutual arousal. You can have the biggest penis in the world and not be good at turning women on, and it will go to waste, because anytime you try to penetrate or enter, you're just going to cause problems, pain, discomfort, etc. So function matters more than size. That's something you should take away. Again, the most wonderful thing, or one of the most wonderful things about the vagina, is that it adapts. It's very welcoming. So the average vaginal length when you are aroused is around 4 to 5 inches, and it's highly elastic. So around 4 to 5 inches, you should be able to go all the way, right? And it's very elastic, so it's able to properly accommodate stuff. So size is not really a big deal. Again, pleasure is multifactorial. We've talked about communication. Ikea has hit on that. Emotional connection is also very important, and foreplay. Sex is a build-up. That's why we talked about the art. There's an art to it, whether you slow dance, whether it's the lights, whether it's the little small kisses here and there, whatever it is, that makes the build-up good, because it's just like you're baking, right? You need to get the oven really hot. You need to, or even if you're making stew, you need to make sure your oil is in the pan first. Maybe you add your onion and everything. It's a build-up. It's a systematic process. And so foreplay and technique matter a lot, because in the end, they will determine how good the quality of whatever sexual intercourse is being had will be rated. Again, too large could be a problem, just like we've said, can cause some pain, some tearing, some discomfort without adaptation. Again, the reason I don't think people should think about size so much is it creates a bit of anxiety and self-esteem issues, which can reduce your performance and intimacy far more than the actual size. There are various positions you can put your partner in, or you can put yourself in. You can even create your own. You can have wild experiences as and when you like. You can change things up. It shouldn't always be the bedroom, like Ikuya said. You can decide if it's your kitchen, if it's your countertop, whatever it is. The point is you need to be creative enough to work with what you have, rather than obsessing over it or stressing over it. So let's focus on size, more on healthy function, more on comfort, more on mutual satisfaction, more on communication. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Mandela's question has been answered. I see Naime's hands up, but Naime, before I come to you, grapes have been on the waiting line. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, grapes or grapes. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
putting
it's Griffiths actually.
Okay, Griffith. So you can pose a question.
All right. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on what Asans was said about asking part of the whole thing. When sometimes you have to ask whether your partner feels good and stuff. But I feel that even when some people are lucky enough to have a partner who asks these questions, like, do you like it? How should I touch you? And all, I think they still feel shy to answer honestly. And I think that shyness doesn't just happen by chance or comes out of thin air. I think it's built over the years through cultural and social conditioning, as Mascot has already mentioned. Because from a young age in Ghana, we learn some unspoken rules. Like, you don't talk about sex unless it's if you want to warn someone against it. So you don't discuss pleasure unless it's to focus on other persons, especially if you're a woman. So even when someone asks, what do you like or how do you want to be touched, your instinct is to either stay quiet or give the answer you think they want to hear, because culture has already played a huge role in conditioning us to feel this way. Because even when during these weddings, when we dance, we celebrate, but when it comes to discussions about intimacy inside that specific union, the room will go silent, because religion and tradition has given us a moral framework that makes it extremely hard to have open, guilt-free conversations about what feels good. And society often defines being a good partner as meeting the other person's needs, but they rarely talk about how it should be a mutual pleasure and how mutual, something, it should be mutual as it goes. So if we want to have healthier sexual relationships, I think we need to change that dynamic. It's not only about the partner asking the right questions. It's also about feeling safe enough and confident enough to answer truthfully. Because without that, you can ask the question, all right, but they won't be truthful to you, and it will just be cost 90. And that requires trust, respect, and that shared understanding that both people's pleasure matters equally. Because intimacy is more than just that physical act, as we've already learned today. There's a conversation that happens around it, the freedom to express without shame, and the connection that makes that the connection that comes when both people feel heard and satisfied. That's what I just wanted to say.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think I'm very grateful. And I think that was a very important submission. And thank you so much, Griffith. So Naime, sorry, you may speak now.
Hi, I'm Yani, and I have a question actually. I think there's this notion that a woman who has had so many sexual partners, or a woman who has been through childbirth, quote unquote, has a question about size was asked. So I want to know, what can we talk more about this also? Yes, thank you.
Sorry,
We lost you,
I think I lost you
at some point. So if you could repeat the question again.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Why did you lose me?
I think.
Okay, no, let me just ask all over. So I was saying that talking about size, so there's this notion that a woman who has had so many sexual partners, or a woman who has been through childbirth, has their vagina some way somehow has opened up now or is loosened. So I want us to talk more about this misconception. Yes.
Okay. So, Doug, over to you.
Yeah. Or Ikuya, would you like to handle this?
Oh, Doc, please go ahead.
Okay, so that's a myth. That's a big myth. Number of sexual partners does not cause a loose vagina. The vagina is made up of elastic muscular tissue. It's designed to stretch and return to its baseline size. So even if it's an AK-47, it's still going to return to its baseline size, whether it's from sexual activity or other forms of stimulation. Childbirth can temporarily stretch pelvic floor muscles, the muscles in your pelvis and tissues, but for the healing and the muscle tone will improve over weeks to months after childbirth. And for some people who even have pelvic floor weaknesses, there are these exercises called Kegel exercises. Even if you don't have pelvic floor weaknesses, you can do them. It really helps with your sexual health because it makes you be in more control of your muscles, according to literature. So other factors, of course, that influence this myth is that, you see, as we age, generally our muscles become a bit weaker. That's why our skin becomes flabby, etc., all of that. So, of course, if you are saying that maybe as people age, especially after menopause, when certain hormones, certain hormones add to our bone density, our muscle strength, all of that. So, when those dip, yes, there may be some changes, but it is not as exaggerated as people say it. It's not that. Sexual history has nothing to do with how with someone's vagina becoming loose. That's a lie. And the perception of tightness in itself is something that's influenced by pelvic floor muscle tone. These are the muscles I mentioned earlier, and that's what I was saying. If you do these exercises, I think even your sexual experiences will be better because you can literally influence things like grip, etc., and even arousal can also influence the perception of tightness as well as lubrication, right? So it's a total myth. Thank you so much, Yanni, for bringing that up. It's an absolutely total myth. A woman who has had many sexual partners or been through childbirth does not have a loose vagina. It doesn't do that.
Thank you. Asadwa, you want to top up?
Yes, Doc mentioned the Kegel exercise, and it's very, very important. But I realized a lot of people don't know how to do the Kegel exercise. It's nothing strange. You just have to picture yourself passing urine or passing gas, okay, flatulence. And then as you are passing the urine, midstream, try to hold the urine from coming. Once you do that, you see that you feel some movement or tightening in the pelvic area. So that is the pelvic floor muscle you are targeting. Once you're able to hold the urine, prevent it from flowing, or you're able to hold the gas, then you try lifting it up like you are picking something with the pelvic floor. So you hold the urine and then you make a dragging movement within. That is, you do that and then you hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds and then you release it. So midstream, when you go to the washroom to pass urine, just pass the urine for some time, midstream, hold it and then wait for about 3 to 5 seconds. You relax and then you can repeat that in about 10 cycles. Just like when you are having a diarrhea and you really don't want it to come, you see that effort you put in to hold your anus. That is how you should be doing it. If you're able to do that repeatedly, it becomes a part of you. So sometimes unconsciously you realize you have held and you are trying to strengthen your pelvic floor muscle. These are the Kegel exercises and it helps with the tightening. But surprisingly, I don't know, with our generation, we seem to be so focused on tightening our vaginas, and the men seem to be so focused on enlarging their penises.
We are two very confused.
So where do we want to put the penises?
It's because of the propaganda. Everybody is seeking to be bigger because of ego on the men's side. And then the women also want to be tighter so that nobody comes to say, hey, as for you, dear, it's 4 people, it's 5 people, or that kind of thing. And it's very important that you talked about how to do it, Ikea. It's the same for men as well. You go to the loo, you try to pee, you hold it, you do that. It feels like you are kind of like squeezing and relaxing. And it helps so much because it helps you even control your ejaculations as a man. So it's a very important exercise. It's a very helpful exercise. I personally have done a lot of research.
Doc,
Yes.
so that means if the men are able to do this Kegel exercise, it can help them to practice the
Coitus interruptus.
withdrawal
Yes.
method.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen.
Over to you.
Okay.
Yes. So,
All right. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Ebenezer. Ebenezer, over to you.
Oh, okay. I do have a question with regards to pleasing your woman, because I was involved in an argument with some guys, and they were like, in order to truly satisfy your woman, like if you have done really, really well, your woman must have squirted. She must squirt in order to please her. That means that you've actually done a really, really good job. And I was battling with them that it's not necessarily so, but I just want to ask, maybe I'm wrong. Is there any scientific backing behind that? Because I'm confused.
okay. Well, should I go, Ikea, or you'd handle this?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Please do.
So, first of all, you need to understand what squirting is. And you need to understand that women are not a monolith, okay? There are women who squirt, there are women who cream, and there are women who don't even do any of the two. There are women that will orgasm and shake all over, there are women that will orgasm and will not shake. That's why it's important to read cues and to have an open line of communication. Squirting is expulsion of fluid. It's kind of like peeing, but it comes from some glands we call the skin glands. It's often called the female prostate gland. So the fluid can be a mixture of diluted urine and those secretions, or the composition varies as and when, but it's very different from vaginal lubrication. It's not every woman that squirts, and not squirting doesn't mean you have a problem. Some people may do it only under certain conditions, and that is fine. It has no proven link to how fertile you are, how good your orgasm will be, or whatever it is. It's simply a normal variation of sexual response. It's the same way some women can cream and others will not. The issue with these conversations, or what prompts these conversations, are trying to fit square pegs into round holes. We are different people with different responses, and we need to find out what works for everybody. There's no one universal language to ensuring that a woman is pleasured. Yeah.
Awesome. Last submission from Asantua, then would proceed to take the last remarks from our speakers. And I know we're enjoying the conversation so much, but we have to begin to bring the space to an end. So Asantua, just speak on Ebenezer's question, then I'll move to take a last comment from you, then we'll begin to draw the curtains on today's space.
Okay, so it's already been dealt with. Squirting is just part of the reactions we can get during sexual pleasure. And just as Ebenezer was discussing with his colleagues, so it means with a man like that, like his friends, if they have sex with their partner and she doesn't squirt, they deem it they've not done well, or the woman has a problem. A woman hearing that is going to feel like, okay, so I am not active enough. I did not satisfy him just because he did not squirt. It doesn't work that way. You need to know your partner, you need to know your body, you need to know the various types of pleasures, so that whichever one you're able to experience, that is good. If you have the pleasure of squirting at some time, I mean, it's pleasurable when you squirt. If you have the pleasure of experiencing it, that is fine. But if it doesn't happen, you are not abnormal. So let's put that at the back of our minds and explore all the other ways of satisfying ourselves and our partners. And I think we should be good.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I allowed for one more question, Mami. One last more question, then we can proceed to wrapping up. Over to you, Mami.
So my question is fingering healthy? That's my question.
Okay. So who is going, Doc or Asantwa? This is for you.
Okay, so with fingering, when you are fingering, you are putting your fingers into someone's vagina. Some men have the habit of growing their nails. You are going to put your fingers in there with your grown nails and cause irritations and cutting someone's vagina. Some do not wash their hands before going in there. They go and deposit everything they are carrying on their fingers into someone's vagina. That is very unhealthy. You need to wash your hands very well. If fingering is pleasurable to your partner, why not? You need to make sure your hands are clean. You need to observe your personal hygiene before you go in to do the fingering. And once you go in there, you need to, it's not just putting your fingers in there because you want to put them in there. There are mechanisms you have to do it to excite your partner. You can finger a lady and cause pain. So as you put your fingers in there, you are exploring and I'm always particular about the feedback you are getting because you are giving. Communication is giving and receiving. So as you are giving, you need to receive. So one, you need to make sure that your fingers are very clean, your nails are clean and short, so you do not cause any harm over there. And then you need to do the fingering in a way that you excite the pleasure you are getting. And if your partner is not comfortable with it, you do not have to force them to let you do it. So that's my submission. Doc.
I think that it all. It's important to know that the vagina and the vulva, the outer area, is they are all designed to tolerate gentle touch and penetration, as long as there's lubrication and care. So, like Asantwa said, take your personal hygiene serious, and then as long as your partner consents and is comfortable with it, it's great. Because I mean, there are a lot of nerve endings in the vulva, the clitoris, and the vaginal walls. And your hands, you have 5 fingers, so and your hands are very specialized. You have a lot of control over them, so you can only imagine how interesting things can get. Yeah.
Okay.
But Doc,
Yes, please.
I think myself, I have a question I want us to look at.
Okay.
So you see, with the fingering itself,
Yes.
if you watch these pornographic videos, sometimes you see them fisting. There is something they call fisting, where they insert their whole fist into the woman's vagina. And my brother somewhere in Atonsu will want to fist because he has seen fisting on the media. Would you advise that?
Well, this brings us to the question of pornography and its deleterious effects. People have a tendency of, well, we are in a society where we don't talk about sex. So obviously, if someone is going to hide and watch a porno video or a porno, they are obviously going to learn what they have put there, and then that's what they are going to use. Fisting, from an entirely medical point of view, it can be done without harm, but it carries a very, 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 very high medical risk than any other form of penetration, and it requires a very careful preparation. The reason I say this is because, we are all health people. You realize when we are doing vaginal exams for women who are pregnant, we literally to a point do fists when we are doing cervical checks.
Yes.
But of course, that is not something that it's done every day or something of the sort. I wouldn't recommend it, in my personal opinion, that someone should fist. But if that is what you are into and you're going to do it, please ensure that the place is very well lubricated and that the hygiene thing is very important, because now you're going even deeper with more fingers and you can introduce so many different kind of infections.
Yeah.
But it's very high risk. Yeah, that's my point. It's very high risk.
So just to emphasize that most of these pornography are more of performance and not realistic. And so these people are acting to, and that is one of the issues now. A lot of people who are addicted to pornography try these performative things and end up risking their own health and their partner's health. And just know, in the midst of your exploitation or your unrealistic fantasies lies a lot of sexually transmitted disease and other complications. And so I would do agree with what they have said. It's not everything that you see. Sometimes you also need to apply logic and common sense. Everything you have seen that you would want to do, you should outweigh the pros, the cons against the pro. And so for me, well, again, in the midst of choice, if both, it's not just about you wanting to do it, but let me emphasize on the issue of consent in all these. And so it's not because you want it, you have to force it down the throat of your partner. About consent also. And I said, in everything, if you apply wisdom, it will help us. So I'll just leave it at that. Let me just briefly take one question each from Jemima and Regina, then we can end, because they have threatened me. If I don't do it, they'll beat me. So Jemima, over to you.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Insightful conversations there. Thank you so much, Dr. The two doctors on the call. So, in line of what we are just discussing, I just want to know how risky sexual behaviors fit into understanding pleasure. I've embarked on community engagements, and I've engaged some men, and then I offer them condoms. I mean, mostly when we conduct these activities, we give them condoms to promote safe sex and also reduce teenage pregnancies in the community. And then they tell you that condoms reduces pleasure, but they forget that it also comes with other risks. And then another question is with the use of dildos to satisfy themselves. I mean, people. How are young people going to enjoy this sex? I mean, have their full pleasure without falling into the pool of these sexually transmitted infections, diseases, or other things. Thank you.
Well, if you're going to, sorry, Ikea, did you want to go first?
Oh no, Doc, you can go first.
So, if you're going to use sex toys, then obviously, it means that you are there's no way you're going to catch an STI, because I mean, you are literally doing whatever you're doing with an inanimate object that is not entering anyone else, so as to speak. I do think that sexuality is evolving. Well, I don't want to get too nerdy, but we've evolved throughout the ages, from tens of thousands of years ago. Point is, if you're going to use sex toys, feel free, use them at your own convenience. Pleasure is a personal thing, right? It would shock you to know that there are people who have partners who help them use sex toys. And at the end of the day, it's an intimate thing between the two of you, and at the end of the day, if everybody goes home happy, or if everybody experiences their sexual pleasure, then it's a win-win, right? If you can't beat them, join them. But sometimes it doesn't even have to be that you can't beat them. Sometimes you just join them for the fun of it, right? And so people have various ways, various methods of inculcating these novel sexual practices into making sure that they have a more holistic sexual experience. To the issue of risky behaviors, of course, we've all heard easy toughness, and other stuff. Which is true to an extent, of course, because your nerve endings are being, there's an impediment to your nerve endings getting the maximal pleasure during whatever act it is that you're doing, oral, vaginal, whatever. But, of course, there's a value proposition. Are you considering safety over pleasure? Are you considering pleasure over safety? In the worst scenario where people simply refuse to use condoms, for instance, because they want maximal pleasure, best thing to do would be to extend screening services to these places so that if it's every 2 months, every 3 months, people get checked. Because I know people who do that, right? Every 3 months they go and get an STI full workup to know that, Charlie, am I like this? Have I contracted something? That kind of thing. It would help. But of course, the main message always will be to keep promoting safe sex, especially in instances where there's a high risk of contracting stuff. But of course, that is also an out, because unfortunately in the healthcare space, people are entitled to do what they want, but we can guide them as much as possible. So I think that's also a viable alternative to the stubborn people as well.
Okay, so I have Madam Abnan now. We conquered the technical yeah, so I definitely would want to hear her submission on the topic so far. So over to you, Madam Abnan.
Sure. Thank you very much, Nadu. Today's this session has really tested my technological prowess, and I want to thank you for your resilience in ensuring that I conquer this. So thank you very much. Yeah. So I'm really excited about today. Because I've been thinking how we can start this conversation of around pleasure. And as the speakers have mentioned, in their various presentations, we haven't even finished talking about, the real hardcore facts around reproductive health, sexual reproductive health. It's a taboo. And now you want to add pleasure. Then it's more like you are playing into the mouth of the people who are against you. And so, personally, I've been thinking around how do we start this conversation, and I'm very happy that you've started it. And, today this is my first time of joining, but I'm very happy with the audience. The number of young people who are on the call amazes me, and it tells all of us that this is a very important conversation and we really need to have it. And just to also let you know, just this afternoon, I received a video from one of my friends in the US. And when I say friends, you should know the age group, right? I'm over 50, so you should know who I'm talking about. And there's this lady who has boiled hot water, and I don't know what she put in the hot water, and then she sat on the hot water. So when he sent it to me, he sent it to me. My only comment is that we have suffered. And then it opened the Pandora box. This is a man. He called me and he said, Abena, I can tell you the difference between women your age and the young women that we encounter here in the US. And he was attributing it to this. The fact that those of us who went through that phase we don't experience pleasure, because a lot of things had happened to make sure that aspect of pleasure is taken away from us. And so all sorts of concoctions are inserted into your vagina all sorts of hot water is poured into your vagina just to make sure that those nerves that would give you the pleasure are not there. I'm not sure whether are not working. I'm not sure whether it's something that our grandmothers or great grandmothers knew, or it's just them doing their own thing. But that's something that is inimical to us. And so we must find a way of ensuring that we are having this conversation and that we are not handing down this anomaly to the next generation, which is your generation. And so I'm very happy that we are having this conversation, just to let you know that I am fully in support of this. If you need any support, you can let me know, and I'll be very glad to support you in any way that it is. But just keep going, and I'm sure that we will conquer together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Abna. Please, if I fail to properly introduce her, she is the immediate past Executive Director for the Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana. She's an exceptional leader and mentor to me, and she wears many, many hats. And so I think Annette is the least of the way to have her join this call and to share this insight with us. So thank you so much. If everyone can do a thumbs up emoji by way of thanking Madam Aya for, gracing me specially with her presence, so that she feels appreciated. Thank you so much. So last one, Regina, last one, your question, then I'll circle back to my speakers to give their concluding words and we draw the questions, because it's already 8, which means that we have spent about 2 hours on this call. It's great because it means that the conversation has been insightful. So, but I also want to respect our sleeping time. So Regina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nadu. I'm very grateful you gave me the last slot. So my question is, okay, when I was in school, I had a lecturer in the public health department, and during one of our classes, she mentioned that in the US, where she came from, they have condoms for oral sex, that is the cunnilingus or something in the fellatio. But then in our parts of the world, these things are not common. And in as much as we want to have pleasure during sex, we want to enjoy ourselves, we want to engage in oral sex, what are some of the things we can do to make sure that we are doing it and we are not getting any infections or anything of that sort from the oral sex?
Thank you very much. So, Doc, you want to take this, or Santua, any of you can go.
Okay, so for oral sex and men, the bioequivalent is like a condom, a literal condom. So there are flavored condoms. If you've seen some of the brands, I think I should think they are flavored condoms. That's what's before oral sex, so that will mask the taste latex or the rubber. That whoever is doing it can enjoy the act, right? But women, it's not so much a condom, it's what we call a dental dam. I haven't seen that in Ghana, but it's like a thin sheet of rubber that is placed over the vulva, and then you get to work in the metaphorical sense of the word. So there's that, but you do raise a point that you can get some STIs from that. It's just rather unfortunate we don't really have the market much for that in Ghana, like the dental dams, etc. Probably because as a people, we are not outwardly fans of oral sex. So yeah, it brings us back to the conversation, why we should have these conversations, to make people more or less older and more confident in their choices and what they like. so that, of course, the business aspect of it can also work out. The companies that bring the condoms, etc., can also bring dental dams, etc., and all of that. So yeah, that's what I have to share.
All right. Thank you. Asantua.
Yes, Doc has said that. I actually wanted to hit on not the oral sex, but when our colleague mentioned the sex toys. So, in the use of sex toys, I've realized some people want to do, they have this thing they call the anal plug. They want to insert the toy into into the woman's anus and then right back into the vagina. No, it's not done. If you want to take the toy back into the vagina, you need to clean it very well. You can't introduce all those germs in there and then risk her having a UTI as well. So in the bid of you wanting to use a sex toy, please make sure if you are transferring from anal region to vaginal region, you are cleaning it very well to ensure hygiene and to reduce the spread of infections as well. And with the oral sex, Doc has done justice to it. So maybe I'll start bringing the dam for the men so that they can wear it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this conversation has been very exceptional. I just like the open-mindedness of our speakers and our listeners, all listeners who made submissions. Thank you so much for enriching the conversation. I know this is just a fraction of the effort, that there's still a lot more battles, or not battles, like a lot of misconceptions still, and we are beginning this session and many more to come. And I'm sure that we still have to face the moral backlash that comes with it. But in the same vein, I think this is a step in good progress. And so, just before we close the curtains, I just want to hear the final thoughts of our speakers, to share one pleasure truth they want us listeners to hold on to. One pleasure truth that they would want us to hold on to. Asantua, your final thoughts, and so you can share your final insights. Then just give us one pleasure truth you want us listeners to hold on to.
Okay. Thank you very much. So my pleasure truth, my last insight will be that sexual pleasure is not a one size fits all, and it's not a static experience. Yes, from the beginning, you may have a peculiar way you see it, but it can always be nurtured. It can always be improved. It can always be changed. So let's be open-minded about it. Let's see it as a point of pleasure, a pleasurable activity. So as you are going in there to have fun and make your partner have fun. Let's be open-minded about it. Let's be honest about it. Let's be realistic about it. And I think with more sessions, we will be able to change the status quo we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Luchard.
Hi. So for me, I think what I would say is just like Ikea said, people are not a monolith. Different things work for different people. Just ask, don't assume. Ask people, do you like what I'm doing? What do you want? Is it okay? Communication is everything. Don't assume. Always ask. That's all I have to share.
Okay, so don't assume, always ask, communicate, approach pleasure from open-minded about satisfaction being both ways. So I think then we can conclude that when it comes to the subject of sexual pleasure, it is both an art and a science. So I want to especially thank my speakers once again. Unfortunately, Dr. Woba had technical challenges. That's why he wasn't able to join us. And of all days, it's just when he was about to join that his X account got suspended. but he has been able to join anonymous, but that he couldn't speak and all that. And he really expresses his regret. But I know definitely we'll get him on other sessions to tap from his in-depth knowledge. Notwithstanding, I want to thank Madam Abna so much for honoring me with her presence, to Roger and Asantua. I think thank you. No, it's not enough. Thank you all so much. Before we go, please follow us on our socials. We are expanding the family, and so on LinkedIn you can search ReproHealth Unfiltered and follow our page. You can find us on YouTube. We are rolling out good content that is hitting us so bad. We have previous videos there that you can share and like. And definitely on X, everybody on this call, kindly follow us please, and you can also follow at ReproHealth 1124 on IG and on TikTok too at ReproHealth.filtered. So expect more X spaces and other IG lives on various reproductive health sessions. And let's continue to drum the conversation about sexual and reproductive health in a good way to remove stigma and misconceptions surrounding it. I have been your host, Nadwe Raja Diko, and to all the listeners that made time to join in, have a lovely evening and look forward to our Pink October series. We have webinars, we have lots of spaces and IG Live events coming soon. So have a good evening, and it's bye-bye from me.